Honestly, it was thinking, first of all, I never thought there could be a relationship. But one thing I know about Mayfair is that...
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Mayfair.
I'm Winston.
And we are
the Clements.
Alright, so as you guys can see, we have a couple of extra faces that you haven't seen on the vlogs yet. You've probably seen them in a couple of the videos if you've watched if you've watched the wedding video and the engagement, but you haven't seen them like in an official sit down manner, but you've been asking to see them.
People have been asking for this.
You've been asking. So do you know what, I'm actually going to hand over to them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to kick off this video.
Yes, I'm Deborah Ngondonga. I'm Mayfair's mom. I'm Winston's mother-in-law.
And where are you from?
I'm from Zimbabwe.
There you go.
Welcome, mom.
Welcome.
Thank you to go on the channel. Pleasure.
You want to kick it off there?
Hi guys, my name is Taguma, and first of all, I am her husband, Mayfair's dad, and Winston's father-in-law.
Yeah, I'm from Zim also, right?
I'm also from Zim, yeah.
There we go.
And we have a lot of followers from Zimbabwe, so I'm sure people will be
Really
excited.
Yeah,
You
put
know.
a flag, put a Zim flag in the comments if you're also Team Zim. And let's see how strong we're going. Cool, so now we know who everyone is. We're going to be asking them just a couple of questions, because I know you guys are curious about what is the dynamic with the in-laws. Like everyone is with every family dynamic, but I think
Honestly.
with especially ours, they're curious to know like what on earth did your parents think about all of this.
Yeah.
So we're going to be asking them a couple of questions, but before we do, what do we need them to do before we actually go into the rest of the video?
Yes,
There's
exactly.
one thing.
Do not forget, please, right now, subscribe to this video, subscribe to this channel, because like we were saying the other week, we get so many people watching our videos, but sometimes people forget to subscribe, so please do us that favor. Hit the button if you want to continue having this kind of content.
Let us know you like what
let us
we're
know
doing.
you like what you're doing.
Cool. So now that's out of the way, should we kick off with the first question?
Yeah. The first one is my question, actually, and see the parents looking a little bit nervous.
They've had no briefing, they don't know the questions, so you're getting their real-time answers.
Yeah, but it's a pretty straightforward one. So I think for me, one of the things that I kind of thought about a lot when we got together was, you know, what is your family going to think of me? Right? And so that is the question. What was your first impression of me? What was your first impression of Winston? And maybe we'll start with Mum and, you know, hear what your first impression. Maybe tell us the first time you saw me and maybe what you were thinking at the time.
Yeah. The first time we saw you was at an event in Swindon, a Christian event that we had attended. But previously I'd seen my daughter being excited. I thought she had someone, but I didn't know who the person was. So when we went to the event, Winston was there, and we were just interacting with everyone, and we particularly interacted with him. I just developed the interest in him for no reason, and we just began to talk. The more I started talking to him, the more I just grew interest with him, and then we invited him for tea at that point before he even knew who he was.
It's a really good cup of tea.
So that was fun.
What about you, Pop?
But what was your first impression like? So that's how you met, but what was your impression? What did you think?
I was just curious because he looked different from all the crowd that were in the event. So I was so curious to know who he was and where did he come from, what was he doing in his event. You know, I was just so like inspired to see him attending the event, because I maybe we never seen so many people like him in the event, and I particularly remembered him and paid attention to him because he looked different. But I wasn't sure whether this was the guy marrying my daughter. That thought didn't even occur to me.
Didn't cross your mind. Pops, over to you. You were at the same event, so were you thinking exactly the same as you?
Well, really, it wasn't the first time that I'd seen Winston, because I'd seen you, Winston, on Facebook. with my daughter. So already I had an idea, but Mayfair is a person who has a different way of thinking. So when I saw that, but of course I didn't think there could be a relationship. I just thought, oh my God, she has got a friend. And so this, in terms of meeting him face to face, that's the event that you're talking about in Sweden, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure whether he is here because of Mayfair, or I just thought we actually met. But when he came over, in fact, I went to talk to Winston. And the way you warmed up was kind of very different. Like, oh, yeah, we could have tea. I said, you know, I'd love to have a cup of coffee with you. And he said, oh my God, why not? I'll come over. And I said, this person is even happy to come to our house. Yeah.
But what was your impression like with all of that? Were you like, he's just really friendly, he's an inspiration? Like, what was your impression of him in those early days when you met him, or even when you saw him like on Facebook and stuff?
Well, to be honest, it was thinking, first of all, I never thought there could be a relationship.
I never expected it.
But one thing I know about Mayfair is that she's so brave and courageous. She has a different way of thinking. So I just said, you know, she's a person who. So I just said, yeah, he's a disabled guy, and I just said, he's a friend. I mean, this is what I've seen with Mayfair. She can just launch into something, you know, like going to New York and just I'm going. And I remember on one occasion, she went to a holiday. What was that country in Europe?
Oh, Paris.
No, when you went on.
Italy, I think.
Italy, yeah. And I took you to Heathrow, didn't I? And I was just thinking, hey, she's going to be there on her own. So I'd always thought that, you know, Mayfair can do anything.
Okay, so those were the first impressions. Now you've gotten to know Winston better, you know, as your son-in-law. What's your impressions now? Like, how would you describe the person that you've become to know, you know, of Winston? Kick off with Mom first.
Okay. Wow, it's more than what I thought. completely different. Like I think after that we spent a lot of more time together, and I got to know him much more, and he gave us that freedom to ask any questions about him that were like, sometimes if you meet a disabled person, feel uncomfortable to ask certain things, but he gave us that freedom to ask anything that we wanted, and we had that freedom to discuss about anything. So that made us very comfortable that we could talk to him about anything. So, you know, he's like my son. I could actually stay with him without Mayfair. I found that it's just part of our family. We've got another son in our family. Yeah. Even if I need anything, I ask him. Even Mayfair doesn't know what is going on. Mayfair would just be surprised. That's what I arranged that with Winston. So we are just so grateful. It's like, you know, so natural that, you know, I don't hesitate. So the relationship just it's an amazing relationship which we really love. Maybe we tend to love more than our daughter actually. We communicate more than
mission accomplished.
Okay, so if you had to like describe Winston in 2 words, what 2 words would they be now that you've gotten to know him?
The most kindest person I've ever met. The most sensible person I've ever met.
Oh, thank you.
He's kind and sensible. Those are kind words. All right, Pops, over to you.
Well, for me, right from the first time that I met him on that day when he walked through our door in Sweden, there is an aura that is around Winston and that you can only experience when you meet him in person. And so straight away when you meet, you kind of quickly forget that he is disabled in any way. I call it a spirit. There's nothing that will tell you that he's disabled when you're talking to Winston. And so straight away that struck me when I met him. You really sometimes have to scratch yourself. Am I talking to a person who is
Pinch
disabled?
yourself.
Yeah, and I remember one of the early chats with Mayfair, she said, Dad, he has no spirit of infirmity. And that is so true. You know, Winston, when you just meet him, just give him a chance, talk to him, everything is all dispelled. So that's exactly how it happened with me.
And what 3 words would you use to describe your son-in-law?
My son-in-law.
No pressure.
He's a bold and giant character. You know, I have a frame. You know, a picture thing is a giant man, a well-built man in terms of his presence. Wherever he goes, he takes preeminence. Honestly, he is a big character. A big character.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Pops. Yeah, no, I really appreciate you both for just for the warm welcome that I've experienced, you know, ever since I invited myself for that cup of tea and, you know, the amount of time I spent, you know, coming over, having lunch, popping in and then end up staying over for like 3 days. You know, it definitely felt like a second home, even, you know, even before we got married, you know, I always felt like somewhere I could go and that I had all these amazing, incredible people that I could talk to.
Yeah.
And the same with Mayfield, you know, my sister-in-law, same with Nyasha as well. Everyone's been super open. And so I guess thinking about family as well, the wider family, because for me, you know, marriages are not just about 2 people, but also about 2 families.
Yeah.
In our case, 2 nations, because I'm Kenya, surrounded by Zimbabweans today. But yeah, so I guess, yeah, thinking about families, what was your impression, and maybe this time I'll start with Pops, what was your impression of the family when you first got to meet my family, meet my siblings, my mom, all of those people? Because I guess also from a parent's perspective, when you're thinking about sending away your lovely, incredible, talented, beautiful daughter, you also think about, okay, what kind of family is she going to? And so I just want to hear like your first impression about the family and how maybe that relationship has grown over time.
Thanks for that question. It was a very important question in me because from previous experience, I mean, what I know of African parents, the way they want to be very much around their son, especially. So I was really kind of anxious to meet the family. Because I wanted to know how they will welcome my daughter. That's the most important thing for me. Because I know Winston loves my daughter, but how about the family? So I came, but when I met Winston's mom and his sisters, they welcomed me. They showed me to be humble, and people who were kind of detached. They were not so overly protective, because that had been my concern. And so from the first time I started to talk to Auntie Cynthia, bless her, rest in peace now. She just welcomed me. She saw me as one of already many of the house. She started to tell me some things about her family, about things that had happened in Kenya. Immediately we started to talk about those things. So it dispelled. Of course, I wanted to see the aunties, my daughter's future aunties as well. I wanted to see them. The girls, they were welcoming. I mean, that day I remember them running around and well dressed. So that means they saw us as an important occasion, you know.
And I think, because we were talking about this yesterday, how even it's really important, obviously, when you're getting married, the 2 families gel. But I think for us, it's actually really unique in that the whole 2 families are kind of gelling, and I think that's like really rare. So I guess like even for you, Mum, how would you describe the relationship? How would you describe the relationship between the 2 families? Because I think it is pretty unique.
Yes, meeting, I call it Cynthia because I think I take it as a friend. Rest in peace, Cynthia, bless her. So when my daughter was getting married, I was concerned, like any mother would be, to say how would Winston's mother treat you, because I know Winston is a disabled young man. Some parents are very protective. So maybe I was worried that maybe my daughter might not fit in because the mother maybe should have cared for Winston for the rest of his life, and seeing another person come in between, and my daughter may come as a threat, or the relation might not be good. So that was my worry, which I had in my heart, but I was just praying to God, saying, "What, I hope she'll be fine." So when we met on the engagement day, it was first time to meet her. That dispelled all my fear, and as we carried on, it was such a, my daughter was like very comfortable to a mother-in-law. It's such a union in marriage, that like a God-like union, which like an overall change that happened, that even the relatives in Kenya and the girls, I just feel so comfortable around them. So it's quite unique.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is rare and just beautiful, like really like a gift from God to have that joining, and something that we prayed about really intentionally from the beginning was like the joining between the two families, because I remember we were saying it because we were like, when we were praying about, you know, our relationship and thinking about, you know, moving forwards, we basically made like a mental list of all of the potential obstacles and all of the things that could go wrong. And one of them was like family.
Yeah,
like
this
it's
was
not,
a big one.
Yeah, because it's not every day you see someone like Winston and how are my parents going to take it. But in the end, we were just like, actually, no, we're going to decide that this isn't going to be an issue, and there's going to be no issue with like the blending of the two families. And we prayed over like everything, and God was so faithful to honor that.
Amen.
And that's a tip for everyone as well. Like, you don't have to accept the way things, you know, quote unquote, should be in the natural. Like, you have a God like who listens, and you can pray over all of those things. So that was such a blessing. And I guess following on, Winston talks about unconscious biases a lot, and we do a lot of work in terms of diversity. So I'm curious to know for you guys, because obviously, you know, you maybe hadn't interacted with someone like, you know, Winston. Were there any, you know, perceptions, or were there any things that you maybe believed before, either about disabled people in general, Winston, that were dispelled now that you kind of know him? Were there any fears that you had before this?
Yeah, and maybe even just to add to that before the parents respond, because I think even for you, the first time that we met, it was a bit of a, you know, awkward situation, because you as well hadn't been around perhaps people with, you know, my disability or my background. And there's always that, you know, because of how society, I guess, teaches us, we always have that hesitation when we meet someone who looks so unfamiliar, or maybe we can't relate to them because we don't know any other disabled people or any other people from that background. So maybe did you have anything like that going on the first time or the first few times that we interacted?
Yeah, we'll start with you, Mom.
Okay. Yes, when he turned up for tea at my house, I wasn't sure whether to greet him standing up. Shall I hug him? Shall I, you know, like hug him on the back, pat him on the back? I wasn't sure how to react. Because it was really our first time being so close to someone who's disabled. Even in my background, I've seen them far away, but not really in my house. And I wasn't sure even questions to ask him whether should I talk to him about his disability. And I had a perception that, will my daughter be washing him? Will my daughter be like caring for him? So I had so many questions. So yes, I was also worried about, can he be intimate to my daughter? So it was all those things that I was thinking about. And on the wedding day, if they want to dance, will they? So the next I was just thinking, is my daughter strong enough to cope with all these things that I was thinking? So I was thinking, my daughter, is she's strong enough? Does she really know what she's getting herself into? Though he's a nice and lovely guy. So we kept on like asking each other, me and my husband, after he had gone, you know, just discussing in our bedroom. To say he's really a nice guy, but does Mayfair really know what she's getting herself into? You know, so it was all these questions that we had. And coincidentally, Winston had done a podcast with somebody else. A podcast with I think it's somebody in America. And we're starting to research about him, and we bumped into it.
Doing that due diligence.
And we bumped into that podcast, and you know, God is amazing. that podcast, that person was questioning Winston, all the questions that we had in Mind Imagine, every one of them were answered. So it was like, wow, okay. So yeah.
It's my work.
So God had already prepared our hearts for that. So all those worries were alleviated, and so it was quite I don't know what a coincidence, or God was working behind the screens.
Yeah.
And after that we're feeling free to ask him any questions that we needed to, and he was quite happy to answer.
Yeah, so really in terms of when I heard that Mayfair was going to be married to Winston, I really was thinking, my God, there was a dedicated care worker for him. There were care plans and risk assessments for Winston, and I actually thought he ate special food, that comes packaged in a unique way, and that's what. And so I thought, they'll have to have an appointment where Mayfair will be taught about. This is how you care for him. This is the number you call whenever there's this problem, and there will be an emergency response team that comes. So I said, has all this been done? Does my daughter know? Is she going to be able to care for him? Does she know how to the bathing and all that? I was thinking about that, and so Winston, that day I called him, and he called me back, and he said, "Ask Dad what you want to know," and I said, are you able to bath? What do you eat? Is it? I don't have even. I go to the GP like anyone. I've got a GP, but actually I see my GP less than most people who are able. And he was saying, I lived in I can do a bath massage. So he helped me. And guys, one thing that happened when they eventually married was there's something supernatural that happened. God made me to be Winston's father. God, in the spirit, he is my son. That's for real. Because the feeling that I feel for now is really cannot be explained by natural means. God created in him a real son-in-law. Really. And as we are getting to know him and his family at large, it is really like if I had allowed the prejudice, those fears that you think of from far about disabled people, about people who have no, it's like I ask myself, this is the gold that I could have missed because of prejudice. For me, that's a big lesson. Every time I'm discovering more and more better things in Winston, and I'm so happy that I didn't allow prejudice or unbiased conscience stop me from accepting such a jewel in my family. He's a gem.
That is such an important point, and I think that's one thing that we really want to do through our channel is create like a safe platform where people's myths can be dispelled as well, because it's so true. You really miss out on experiencing people because of prejudices, and sometimes it just comes from not knowing or not experiencing. So we hope that through this channel you can actually get that experience of seeing that we're really all not that kind of different, and in the ways that we are, all there is to kind of learn and love one another, really. So that's really such a blessing, and I think rare, because a lot of people think, African culture is like very kind of closed-minded, but you guys, my parents are just an example that like that is not the way.
Very forward thinking.
But also I love how honest you guys were. Like it's a journey. Like it didn't start off as like straight away like yep, cool, happy with this, but it was that journey of like asking questions, being curious, and creating that open space to talk. So
I asked
that's
him
amazing.
how many times to go to your GP.
It's like
Listen, that was
once a year.
I don't know my GP.
Yeah.
It was a very intense phone call.
So that's all the questions, guys. But is there anything from YouTube that you want to tell YouTube? You want to tell the subscribers, the viewers, like anything you want to say? Now is your chance to tell them what you want to tell them.
I just say to anyone who's watching, even if your daughter or your son is getting married to somebody different, I say just have an open mind, because otherwise you miss a lot on and looking at the cover of the book, you know, the person, the real person is inside of that person, you know, the spiritual person. So if you look inside, you see a lot. Like I wish if we had judged Winston on that is a guy in a wheelchair and the way he looks, would have missed out on a lot of opportunities that we're having now. And the family time if they have with this one family, would have missed out a lot. So, you know, I encourage you, somebody, just to give that opportunity to allow people and get to know people better. So the person is not what you see outside. The real person is inside. So allow that opportunity in your life. Thank you.
Wise.
Thank you.
All right, Pops, how about you? Any final words for
your audience, for your followers, your new fans?
My new fans, thank you very much. You know, guys, I'm going to tell you about my experience. And experience is something that you have actually gone through. My experience of the time that we've had with Winston and his family is like, wow, this has been a blessing. I was thinking about when I saw one of the videos where over 500,000 people watched it, and I was saying, real, I'm able to touch the hearts of so many people through basically allowing Winston to marry my daughter. How special that is. And I could have lost it because of prejudice. My experience is that we are having fun. We have wonderful family unions with their family and together. I never seen it. So it's my experience that, guys, don't let prejudice. You can lose a lot with your prejudice. There's so much that is, with Winston, it's like a treasure that is buried right down in the rock. That's my experience. We're loving every moment. We have, future is going to be great. Beautiful grandchildren. I've got names already for that.
And
So, and they're all fun and cute little ones. So I'm so glad God.
That will be edited.
I'm so glad that God has, you know, we are able to be firm, you know, and that's because we didn't allow prejudice to hold us back.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, this was so good. I feel like we definitely have to invite you guys back for a part 2. Actually, let us know in the comments if you want to do a part 2. Maybe we can get some questions from you guys as well directly for the parents.
Exactly. But yeah, this time we'll let you guys ask the question and we'll do a part 2.
So good. And such an important conversation as well, because, you know, even when it comes to bias, it's not something that some people have, some people don't. Even I have them. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations with people who are different, because that's how you learn, you grow, you understand, you build empathy, and you just get to experience people in a new way, a good way, God's love, because God's love transcends any container that we might be carried in this world. So.
Wise words there.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you do subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Share it with someone as well, because we're just all about opening perspectives. So share this with someone who you know it's going to bless and open their perspective. And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
What is it?
Thanks.